Fluorspar can be an unpredictable city. But fluency doesn't mitigate its problems. In some ways, it amplifies them. This is why we're deployed. But we've seen better days.
Then why are we just now debriefing?
This mission is not complete.
I only know of her. Our lack of data collection is a problem.
Valdez, I'm aware of your investigative talents. Braxwell spoke highly of you, and that's why you're on this team. Local law enforcement handles itself very well. But there are those with abilities. Some believe themselves to be good. Others don't even attempt to act as if they are. Either way, we're involved. Not everyone will agree with our status. But that can be said for anything. May I remind you both, we're Alphacore, and failure is not what we do.
What is up? What is up, everybody? We are live. Today's a special day. Obviously, the occasion itself, but also this is the first official stream that we're doing on the Rippaverse channel. So we have not done that before, and we're going to be, for the first time, not well. Let's say this: we don't have to worry about NDAs today, which I know the Saskas are excited about.
It's our time to shine. Yes.
Which they I know they're excited about. I am too, to finally get to kind of speak about this with you guys. This is going to be a fun time. We're going to discuss Alphacore. We're going to discuss maybe some ideas, theories that you guys have been talking about in the future. So I did just make the memberships go live here on the channel. So if you guys want access to those emotes, you'll be able to get that as well. So let me start by saying thank you guys for another successful campaign that we've had here at Rippaverse, $3 million campaign in a row. First non-ice on property, which is massive for us. It really does legitimize our future here. So I just want to thank you guys. We ended at 1.3 million, and yeah, that's massive. That's huge for us. So we ended at 1.3 million. It was just a wonderful campaign, our most efficient campaign yet in terms of our efficiency with our the warehouse stuff, the shipping, as well as just the website not having those issues, you guys being able to check out. Just a really, really smooth process. We were low on our tickets this go around. Just everything went almost according to plan. So I just want to thank you guys for the continued support. As we are having a blast here with the company, and we have a lot of stuff that we'll be doing in the future. So I just wanted to personally thank you guys for yet another campaign success. And I figure we kind of start the show with a bang, so we don't waste anybody's sort of time. So what we're going to do, I probably ask everybody here, except maybe Mike, this question. So we'll go round table and sort of discuss this. But I won't even start first. I'm actually going to start with the man himself, and I can make the question kind of unique to him because, well, he wrote the damn book. Chuck. So finally, right? Yeah, we get the books out. Everybody's read it. What do you feel like is going to be everybody's kind of general takeaway from learning more about the characters that are involved, not just Alphacore, but also with characters like Michael, Copper, as well as Lillian. So you wrote it, of course, you mapped everything out. So considering that you had a lot on your plate, it was a lot of characters that you were dealing with in introduction. So I'll give you the floor here and kind of you can let everybody know kind of what you think is going to be their takeaway. Maybe there were some kind of favorites that you had in terms of writing or even in the creation element.
Well, I hope I established a solid love-hate relationship for the two villains. We hate them, but we want to see more of them. So that's when a writer sets out to create a bad guy, that's the ultimate goal. You want to create a bad guy everybody hates, but is fascinated by. So, you handed me those two characters, and I did the best I could, and apparently I succeeded because people really think they're a pair of a-holes. Other than that, I just wanted to present a story, a complete story, one and done, feature film length story that made you understand and care more about our core characters, as well as present a story that, make you laugh, make you cry, make you keep turning the pages. So that, and I'm hearing nothing but positive feedback, except from haters on Twitter. But
what's new there?
They don't seem to like anything.
Yeah, no, there's nothing we can do is correct.
I hate to spend a Christmas morning with these people. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the end results, and happy that other people liked it. So
absolutely, and I'll speak to that just briefly. I mean, look, a lot of people are saying this is the best book that we've released so far, and that's what we want. That's the type of feedback it is that we want. We've learned so much here, and of course, with you guys as a tandem with Joe as well as yourself, man, it could not have saw this level of success that it did, and I'm certainly thankful for it. And man, you wrote an absolutely killer story, and the implementation of, and I love the implementation of that you did with Lillian and Michael, because as people got, they got the cards, right? So they know these characters can do some stuff, but you get to see them and like let's say wield their sort of power, if you will,
right,
with having to do superpowered things, right? So you see kind of how sinister they can be, especially with Lillian when she starts to sort of take charge, and what's happening in the story. I love that approach. That was really, really cool, because you don't really until the end. Joe Bennett did a good job. Let's say if people didn't have the cards, right? You don't until the end start realizing.
Got the cards, scrub.
Yeah, you should have. They should have got the cards. If you didn't, that's your fault. But if you didn't get the cards and you read it, you wait to the end, and then you start to see cool things like Michael's eyes is glowing. You start to see like there's more to these characters that of course we're going to entertain long in the future, but you got to see them in this story really wield their power in other ways, which that's always a dangerous type of enemy, right? That yeah, they have their own personal abilities, but without having to really lift a finger, they can cause a lot of shit. Let's just call it what it is. That's what they did in the story. So you did an awesome job. I'm really excited to get Michael's thoughts on this next. So I'll move to him just because, again, he's a legend in his own right. And I would love to know what your kind of takeaways was from the story that is Alphacore, and handling sort of the city of Flores Park and your upcoming Gooding book. You kind of skirt around that stuff as well as far as the city itself. But what was your takeaway from reading Alphacore?
This was a master class in how to do a superhero comic. When I see Chuck open these pages up like this, I thought that I was wasting space when I just do 5 panels a page. but again and again, Chuck opens the book up to a huge scenario, and the action does not just stop there because he seldom devotes 2 pages to a single image. There's a single image up front, but then the story continues below, which shows mastery of his craft here. I'm looking for some of these. Just hang on a second. Hang on. Oh yeah, like this, you
Oh
know.
yeah, that's amazing. I love that scene.
That sweet chin music.
'Cause, you know, it's always been my opinion that when you devote a page to a single image, that the action stops while the reader admires the image, and the image may be beautifully drawn and fantastic, but you're stuck on that page for a minute to absorb it, and the story doesn't continue until you turn the page, which is why I think it's a good idea to use the big space above for your double page spread, but then the story continues on those same 2 pages, because the essential question in fiction is what happens next. And the reader has to care about what happens next before he turns the page. Chuck makes you care.
Oh yeah. Oh, he does for sure. I mean, the just development of the story, man. With each, it is quite literally, as we've said, it's cliche, but it's true. A page turner, right? You are reading it and you are excited to see what is going to happen next. And I've spoke about this before with Chuck and Joe and man, they really work good as a duo, with Chuck kind of writing to his strengths at the same time, which is why you see those beautiful those spreads like you see. It's what Joe is he's just absolutely killing it. So it's really a testament to Chuck and his writing. So Andrew, I'll move to you because you obviously being a big fan of Michael, right? This is kind of the first time that we see him really in a story where it's like, yeah, he's in you get a glimpse of him in ISOM, but as far as in this book, he's like really impactful to the actual storyline. So I know that that probably made you happy there, but just in general, right? Just speaking in general, starting off, what was kind of your takeaways from or with Alphacore?
Well, something that I really love, and this is something that I mentioned on our closeout stream to Chuck, is I love a lot of setup. I don't need everything right away. I came from a time where comic arcs took a little while to get where they were going, to the 80s, the 90s, even in the early aughts. And I love all the setup that was going on, not just with individual characters, but also with the world itself. And Chuck really fleshed out a lot of the logistics that go on, not just in Florist Park, but hinted at stuff that goes on outside of Florist Park as well. And obviously being on the back end, on the creative, I get to know and see where other people are taking that. And it's so cool to see each one of you kind of take the reins on a different part of the lore and a different part of building out and fleshing out and making this world something truly realized, something that feels lived in. Eric, you're doing it in one capacity. Chuck's doing it in another. The Saskas in another, and Mike in another. And it's really cool to see how it's all coming together. And I'm looking forward to seeing the fans actually finally get to see how that's all tying together. As you said, I've been a big fan of Michael Copper ever since, not just his introduction, the brief 1-page introduction in ISOM, but ever since I saw this card,
Yeah.
I was like, that's my dude right there. And Chuck, you did not disappoint at all. I love when characters have power, but don't need to necessarily exercise that power because they can manipulate situations in other ways. He's a smart individual. He can manipulate and maneuver situations without having to use his powers. And those powers are currently NDA chat. Sorry. You don't get that yet?
Not quite.
Not today. Not today. But it's such a cool thing to finally see him and Lillian Renashi get fleshed out more and utilized. Because I was waiting for it. I was like, okay, so they got teased in ISOM 1, not in ISOM 2. When am I going to see these? When am I going to see our own little Team Rocket here? Like I'm waiting for it. And man, Chuck knocked it out of the park. And it was so great to see how manipulative they both are, how they approach situations differently, because they're not the same type of person. I love Lillian's line where she talks about wanting to take a more subtle approach with handling Alphacore and the stuff that's going on in the book. and that says a lot without saying much, right? And it takes masterful storytelling from people like Chuck in order to be able to do that. Like with a simple line, you're actually saying a lot about the character.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly put. Yeah, they very, very much are different people, right? Michael and Lillian. And though they do work as a duo, you can really see their differentiation. I think it's what Chuck did a great job, as you see them arguing sort of back and forth. There's a little difference in their approach. Again, Chuck did a great job with that. So I'll for sure move to the Saskas now, because they have a lot of obviously insider knowledge with all the characters that are involved. They kind of have their pulse, or rather hand on the pulse of the company in terms of where it's going creatively. So ladies, I'll give you the opportunity to talk about what your takeaways were with Alphacore #1.
Thank you, boss. And thank you for making a spoiler stream. I've been watching this for so long.
And thank you, Chuck, for a masterclass.
Yeah.
Like Mike said, in comic book writing, I'm going to be a better writer and a better artist for having read Alphacore. I feel that there's healthy competition within the Rippaverse of storytelling. And every time I read one of you guys' stories, I'm like, gotta step up my game. Gotta get better.
That.
Well, you enter the friendly rivalry that Mike and I have always had over our career. So.
I love that. Absolutely.
I'm very honored, sir.
Honored but intimidated, because I've read both of your unreleased books, and you guys have both made like one of my favorite characters. Chuck. Oh, I know this isn't. I'm being.
We can't spoil those ones.
Yeah, but Chuck with your guy and Mike with your guy. They're so good. But talking about guys, I can talk about Billy Bob has one of the best intros ever. Here is a dude that you're like, oh my God. And he gets woken with a fire extinguisher by his grandma. And you're like, what is going on? What is this guy's dynamic? And you're like, obvious. And you're like, oh my God, is she running him? Like, is she running his jobs? And is like, is that his grandma? Or is that his grandma? Like, you don't even know. And you're like, this is so interesting. And he has such a, like, I mean, if you have powers like that, like she's, for anime fans, it's like a Bakugo, a guy that's explosive like that. You're like, oh man, there's no subtlety to that. And he goes in the bank and Brian's there and you're like, oh shit, this is gonna be so cool. But you're also like, how is the damage going to be able to be under control? Because we got a fire guy. We know Michael's sending everybody in there being like, okay, I'm just going to just blow up all the evidence possible. And it's just like so crazy. And the fact that the bank manager is actually the dude who's like he figures it out. So they cut off the oxygen, and then Brian and him have that like gallows humor of like, yeah, let's just leave him in there. Like it's so good. And I feel like in the comic, that's one of the only times Brian Solari even gets to have a good time, because he is so held down by the cape, by everything. Like, as soon as I heard what a D99 form was, I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
So every time we're like, yay, Brian saved the day, he's like, okay, another file. All right, I flew twice. Okay, I think something heavy up. Fuck.
Yeah.
The show Don't Tell is masterful in this book, because it's not just the story that you tell, it's how you tell it. It's not like, hi, I'm Brian, I'm going to work, but I'm not supposed to stop crime yet. And the way that story unfolds, because you have this horrible situation, and then it's right away like Brian on his own has this superhero moment, and he knows that he's fucking himself professionally.
Yeah.
If you've just heard the F word for the first time, I'm sorry, but it's an awesome word. And he has this amazing hero moment, and as soon as he gets in, you find out that he's not even you're not a first responder, you're a last resort. Oh, that's such a trailer line. And you catch up with everyone in their own moments. You don't just go like, oh, Braxwell knew Ingrid from Police. You just get into these moments with these characters, and you get into a scene and you figure out who they are and how they're different within their circumstances. It's just absolutely brilliant, Chuck.
Yeah. And the freaks thing, they say it's just, and then all of a sudden, how excepts are treated without really saying it. Cause like, these are the excepts we have on a little leash that do what we want, but they kind of are still people. Oh, it's great.
It's a wonderful structure to the world, because it's not just like Yaira's flying around blowing shit up every day. What is to stop her if not the Alphacore, you know?
But you had so many great like little villains, like the psychic guy that came in. That guy was amazing, and also
Chubby man.
it makes you think, oh no, literally any accept can be going around doing crimes, and it's not like you know what they are. You don't know that guy's going to be accept. You don't know that guy's going to burn that guy to death in the cell. You just don't know those things are going to happen. But it's like it's almost like the world is still figuring out how to catch up for these exceptional people.
Most definitely. So Igor, obviously you being our sort of a lead illustrator internally, you've had the opportunity of doing pretty much drawing all of these characters. But I love your perspective from the art side, because as far as like even with Brian's design, I remember us talking about like there was this is Alphacore, so this is the definitive sort of versions of these characters, and there's a slight adjustment there to how when Joe was approaching Brian's suit, right? Overall, like it's pretty much the same, but there's some slight differences. And I remember talking about, okay, now we need to take that into consideration with the future sort of art stuff that it is that we do. So just from an artist perspective, especially being kind of tapped into the Rippaverse in the way that you are, what was your takeaway, as well as the story, right? What was your takeaway from Alphacore?
Yeah, well, I loved all of it. I was going to talk mainly about the artwork because I'm friends with Joe Bennett, so it was like amazing for me. I met him through the Rippaverse like more than a year ago, because he was tapped into work with Chuck, and then we got to talk, and he told me about like his story. He helped me like with feedback, so he's been like a great mentor for me in that regard. And he's an amazing artist. If you see like those pencil pages, just the pencil alone is like, it blows your mind. Like, how is he able to do that like with just paper and pencil? It's out of this world. That man is like a treasure. Like, we need to give him jobs. Like,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, as many as we want. Him and Chuck, man, they can't stop coming up with ideas, and that's what we want. That's what we want.
He's really great, like a great dude, humble, everything.
Yeah.
But in regards to the story, one thing that Mr. Barron mentioned is like, you have double spreads that I know that Joe asked if it was possible, because during my interview he mentioned like he wanted that cinema feel to it, like the Michael Bay style, the Hollywood like bombastic scenes. But it also tells a story, right? That's what you want from a comic book. You want like panels that move the story forward, that show you the character, that presents you with how they approach things, how creative they are with their powers. It's not only about like, I'm gonna come in and punch the bad guy. It's like, oh, he's electric, so I'm gonna use water in this. I'm gonna try and like move around. And one special thing for me, at least, I grew up with Image Comics, so Spawn and stuff like that, and the crazy panels that needed arrows for you to follow. And like with Bennett, like you get that paneling, but only in a few moments where that's essential. If you go back and read the book, whenever Galvan is going crazy, he goes crazy with the panels. So the panels are all like inclined, and the lines are jagged, and the colors are different. So everything was like really well thought out. Like you can see there, like it's almost like he drew the page like this.
Yeah,
that the entire page is like inclined to it's diagonal. So it's really smart use of paneling and layout, artwork in general, like that.
Well, that
like
fight
you can
with
see
Ingrid.
Yeah, the fight with Ingrid is crazy. Like the angles, like that shot of her standing against the couch, like from below. I was like, man, if I had to draw this, it would take me like a week or something. I would have to take so many reference pictures. I would go crazy. But he's a master at what he does. Like he does pages constantly. You see the guy producing for all sorts of styles of comic book companies. And regarding the story, my favorite part actually for like I read like 3 times already. So Lillian Copper grew up on me. Like I started liking them more and more as I read through, especially with the inset panels. of them reacting to the catastrophe that's about to
Oh
happen.
yeah,
Like
that was pretty cool.
those
They
are
were having a
that's
blast.
such a nice touch
Yeah,
because you love to hate those people, right? You
yeah,
know what's going on. A lot of people is inside there, like they're about to destroy the city, and they're like kids looking at the phone and having fun with it. You want the villains to be like interesting and exciting as well. So I think that was really smart. The sauces mentioned something. I remember Chuck talking about like how superhero stories are mainly like logistics, if I'm not mistaken, like about the logistics of it. And you can see it throughout this comic. I might be wrong in saying that, but you can see like the way that he interacts with the police, having to fill forms, having to. So he's building this world that we've seen from the perspective of like Flores Park so far, but you can see like I it made me wonder like what's different outside of this. Like how do they do things outside? Are there accepts? Is this like the way the accepts are treated is also like an example of how like logistics affect the world in one way, right? Because the authorities have to deal with them, and how does the world deal with them? So it's really interesting. Like it's a masterclass in storytelling and art, everything. Like I love the story from beginning to end. I couldn't like stop reading it. It's
yeah.
really good.
It is. It's so freaking good. And you know, you bring up some good points, and I would love to with the writers that are on the panel, and just I'll give a little perspective here as well to kind of start us off. Because I would love to get Mike and as well as the Saska's approach on this. Like having read Alphacore, right? I just don't want people to get the wrong idea about like, yeah, I might have created an individual character, but I'm very much still kind of there's a lot that I pick up from Chuck's obviously writing style and as well as the story it is that he's telling, right? So it becomes in a way sort of influential with the future stories it is that we're telling, even just based on the city itself, right? So like I started kicking around ideas, especially reading kind of what Chuck was, because we know that what Chuck did a good job of is really showing that different dynamic and that be it tension, be it complications between the fact that there's this superhero cop team that's very much a part of the law enforcement, and then you have like the base sort of law enforcement, and that's going to come with its set of rules and regulations there. So I'd already been kicking kind of ideas in my head about, you know, how that can impact even like response times and certain things that would happen within the city when stuff starts to hit the fan. I'll start with Mike, because you know Mike's doing other stories outside of we kicking ideas around. So without going into too much details, after reading Chuck's Alphacore, was there some inspiration there with other future stories that you have been kicking ideas about maybe in your head, but you know, really being inspired by some of the stuff that was being told, or the story that was being told rather in Alphacore? Did you, like me, get any sort of inspiration for some future ideas, Mike?
Well, I always get inspiration when I read Chuck's material. 1 second, guys.
This is like a reverse celebrity roast. I want to put a paper bag over my head.
Aww, it's a honey roast.
As you know, most comics are pretty bad. But these aren't, you know. Theodore Sturgeon was a great science fiction writer, and he gave us Sturgeon's rule, which is 90% of everything is crap. And he's right. 90% of TV, 90% of movies, 90% of comics, they're crap. You read them, and mostly we read the comics because we like the art. But Chuck grabs you by the throat. He knows how to do that and involve you with his characters. So aside from the individual characters, what he does is he inspires me to work at my craft to try and be as good as he is.
Well, I can say the same. I mean, Mike's tired of hearing about this, but when I got into comics professionally, I was like freshman year. He was senior year, a couple of years ahead of me in his career, and he was the high bar. I mean, you talk about all these other talents, but I'll tell you, within the comic industry, Mike was the high bar, what he was doing on Nexus and doing with Badger. And I aspired to that. And then, you know, when I wound up writing The Punisher, so much of what I did with Frank Castle was informed by Mike. The things he thought of, the nuances he brought to that character, where they you know, I worked in his shadow basically. So to hear him praising my work is embarrassing.
You embarrass me, Chuck.
Well, I try to every time.
Oh man, no, seriously, from a creative perspective, before I let the Oscars go, I mean, you know, for me to even be kind of able to absorb all of this as well, because I'm very much still kind of in my infancy stage with some of the stories it is that I'm telling. Man, this is again instrumental to my individual growth. So having a Mike here, having obviously Chuck here, has been just man, it's been godsend, man. I obviously appreciate everything you guys do for the company, but make no mistake, we're all learning here. I'm especially learning a lot from picking up some of what it is that you guys do in your approaches to storytelling. But Jen and Sylvia, like you guys having read, you know, Alphacore, and being really, really tapped in to what we're doing in the future, is there anything that you gained inspiration for as far as some of the future stories that you're telling from some of the conflicts and just the general stuff that was happening in Alphacore?
In short, yes. Without spoiling anything, there are characters within these covers that I care. I mean, I love all of them, but
You just showed all of Alphacore.
Yeah, I love all of them. I'm really interested in Lillian and Michael. I think that they're so fascinating.
Yeah.
And if you have real power, you don't raise your voice, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
And Lillian and Michael haven't even used their XF powers. Not really.
Not really.
Not really.
True.
So when you're so powerful that you have gained power in society as well, they're really scary villains. They're very scary because we don't even know the lengths that their control extends to. We see them. I was about to spoil I saw. Okay, not yet. Not yet, Andrew. I'm not going to give you a heart attack, but you know they're strong.
My heart can only take so much, Jen.
And they're
Be gentle.
You know, I love how they're together, but they're not together. And I love that Michael is always on a date with some chick, because you can tell he has a healthy sexual appetite, just not for Lillian. And what is it?
What is
that-
going on between those two?
I
Mhm.
love that they fight with each other.
Yeah.
I think that is such chemistry. I think even though they're not together, I ship them together now.
Yeah.
Because I love how much they hate each other. And we have had such a glimpse at our heroes so far. Like Isom, that was such a and then we got Yaira and Bloodruth and Gooding all in there. And what I was really wanting, I was like, okay, who do we hate though? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
give us Guy Wilkins, this wonderful, pure man.
Oh yeah.
And then you take him away from us.
You scoundrel, you fiend.
I used to
My
be cruel to my
God.
characters. Now I'm cruel to my readers.
I wanted justice for Wilkins. Sure, that also brought like the infamy of Michael and Lillian to
Yeah.
the next level, because I'm like, oh, now someone's dead and it's a cop, and
Yeah.
Alphacore couldn't save them. Oh shit!
Yeah, that was immense. Like, I think I'm not going to spoil anything. Okay, so
Tough.
I realized when we were having one of our creative discussions, Alphacore are the super cops. So when an accept acts out, there's a lot of opportunity that they may show up again in the future.
Yes.
Who else would show up if somebody's leveling the city except for the Alphacore?
Mhm.
And you get such an assumption from who they are when you read ISOM 1. At least I did. I was like, back off, leave Yaira alone. Obviously, I was seeing it from a Yaira point of view. And then hearing what Brian Solari has to go through, from just being a hero to basically getting like reamed out by his boss. And he's like, okay. And he's like, wow, I went from war hero to here. And that happens. Like, I know so many people who are good soldiers and they don't want to be insubordinate, and they deal with this chain of command. And you're like, man, that sucks. And that's frustrating. And because of that, I was like, wow, he has a lot more in common with Yaira than I thought. Like
Mm.
him and Yaira have a lot, except he's under control of himself. He's a good soldier. He has that. Whereas I feel like both of them would love to fly free as much as they wanted to, except he can't because he's bound by responsibility. So I was like, man, they're going to be fighting a lot, but who knows? Who knows? They might find common ground. She might even be like, why don't you fly and rip up a form or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what'll happen between two of them, but I think he's not just a good guy. He's the complex human being, which I thought was really cool. And that makes everything that happens when the cops show up. Oh no, it's the super cops. It's, oh wow, it's Braxwell, it's Ingrid, it's Brian. And it's cool because it's not like they're like a super team that everybody gets along super well with each other. Like they are a unit.
Yeah.
They are very individuals. Like there's even a part where they're like, yo, that's why we call it Alphacore. Yeah. What would it be like if you put a bunch of superheroes together and you were like, this is what you do? It's kind of like going behind the scenes at like WWE. You're like, wow, these are big personalities everywhere. And you really captured that, especially with the end when Ingrid's like, fuck your boat. Fuck your boat. I was like,
that was fun.
It's a win, right? Like in hockey, if your team's not winning, at least if they fight the other guy, you're like, okay, well, we got a couple of punches to do, so it was like a win, eh?
And what a setup too, because Lillian and Michael knows that the Alphacore know, and the Alphacore know, like they just faced off. They're like, hey, I know we can't bring you to jail, but if I could rip you in two, I totally would right now.
Yeah, and that's from the setup at the very beginning, because if Brian could do whatever he wanted, boom, those guys off the street, but he has to follow protocol. So you're like, oh man, it's going to be trickier to get all these guys.
Yeah, you could just grab one and flick them into orbit and be like, done. Don't go anywhere near each other anymore.
Yeah.
Well, one of the million things I love that you did, Chuck, with this story was, and I love this in writing, and it takes great writers to be able to do it, is you provided answers to questions while also giving us more questions to ask. So what I mean by that is we got to learn like what it looks like on the inside of the Alphacore, right? What they have to deal with, the tape that they have to put up with, the paperwork they got to put up with. They have rules. They're not just completely unleashed, right? They have to go by a set of standards. There's protocol to deal with. And obviously, as the sauces were just saying, Brian's not really a fan of it. He deals with it, but he's not a fan of it. But what does that look like for exceps that aren't Meth Gary, that aren't Billy Bob, that aren't, these other villains that are actually good people? What does that look like for them? How are they viewed? If there are exceps out there that want to do good things, your more traditional, like vigilante superhero types of characters, how are they viewed by the general populace of Flores Park? How are they viewed by the police force? How are they viewed even more so by the Alphacore? What does Brian see when he looks at exceps that are out there and they're wanting to save people? They're wanting to, pull people from burning buildings. They're wanting to take down, evil exceps that are doing bad things. How does he look at those characters? Does he look at them and be like, man, I wish I could do that? Or does he look at them and be like, well, I got to bring them in because they're not supposed to be doing that, even though they're doing something good? See, to me, that provided a lot more questions that I want to see answered further down the line.
I'm right there with you on that, man. And yeah, it's just I don't know, man. Reading the story and seeing it play out the way that it did was such a especially with the dynamic, that to me is what I really enjoyed about it between Alphacore. We kind of opened up at the very beginning, not the very, very beginning, but at the beginning of the story with this sort of conflict happening between Brian and Ingrid, right? And how, again, their approaches are a little different. They're very much a team, but their approaches are a little different. And the one thing that I enjoyed in that is, like the introduction, for example, Sandy Kim. That was genius, by the way, by Chuck. You have Alphacore, but because of the nature of them, you're going to have a few guys that work with them very, very closely that aren't on the field like that. And I really, really loved that idea. Yes, you got a glimpse of the ship, if you will, in Ice 2, right? It was very brief, but in Chuck's book, you got to finally get like really on the inside of that and learn about like Sandy, learn about Brian and his let's say lack of technological sort of
technical ineptitude.
Yeah, you got to learn about that. Which was really, that was fun, right? It was fun, and again, it's very much a team dynamic. But as in any team dynamic, not number one, everybody isn't perfect. Everybody has their strengths. Everybody has their weaknesses. But those are gonna, sometimes be in conflict with each other, and that's what I really enjoyed about this story, is that it really expanded upon just Alphacore and the world, let's say, that really that they live in, not like just the city of Florist Park, but the police force, the blimp or the chip and everything that's associated with that. I have to ask Chuck, because you see people now, it's finally appropriate for them to talk about Wilkins, right? How did that idea get conceptualized for you? And then how did you make the decision, like, yeah, I'm gonna bring him in, people are gonna have a lot of empathy for the guy, and I'm killing his ass off? Like, how was that?
You monster.
Savage.
This is comics. He can always return.
Not in the Rippaverse.
No, he's not playing that way.
Actually, can I compliment Eric's question, because I asked the Soskas about this during our first stream back in Nice and 2, and how does it feel to be able to kill a character and not have it like Baron just said, like knowing that he's not coming back, or that not like at least we know that his dead, like there are no multiverses, no like other. How does it feel to write for that, like the responsibility of that, alongside what Eric asked?
Well, it's always hard to kill a character that you like, because you've got to like him and then make the reader like him. Otherwise, his death is meaningless. But when I created Wilkins, he was created to die. I thought I want this character to be like as close to a normal person, close to someone that we could all relate to. I mean, he's not all jacked up, he's just a normal beat cop or whatever kind of officer he was. And I kind of based him on a friend of mine, Drew Geraci, who's a comic inker, and that's his voice. He comes off kind of. Drew, well, we're all fanboys, but Drew's a big fanboy, even though he works in comics. And I wanted this guy to be a fanboy of Alphacore.
I like that.
And I thought, well, the readers are going to relate to him, because he's getting to hang out with real superheroes. And then we found out he is, in his own way, a superhero. But his powers are minor. But of course, as we see in the story, he strains his powers to their ultimate limit in order to save the day. And I just like the idea of the common beat cop is the guy who ends up saving everyone. He was created to die. Yeah, it hurt killing him, but like I said, I'm cruel to my readers now. So.
that is, and I guess I could echo that, Igor, because you're right. I'd imagine more than I can speak to it for sure. Chuck and Mike can, considering that they've done work for other publishers, and the rules are a little different. But with Rippaverse, one of the big selling points, you mentioned earlier, Igor, like without multiverses and all that, so things are more permanent, right? When we like get rid of somebody, right? It's like it's far more permanent than it would be with anything else, which I can imagine that creates some sort of challenge, and you have to be thoughtful and mindful. I know we've talked, Chuck, on various shows that I've done about this very topic of like, hey, back in the Gap, that when you wanted to get sales, you had to kill somebody off and do all that. Whereas now with us, death is a very like it's a thing to be taken seriously because of the setup of our world. So you kind of got to be precise, and when you do it, you got to understand, like, yeah, man, there's no turning back from this. This is serious. So
that's stakes.
Yeah, that's
stakes is something that's missing.
Or
There's no gravity to the death of characters these days in Marvel and DC. Marvel right now, this isn't a big two shit on stream, but Marvel right now has this event going on where they're finally ending the stupid overhyped Krakoan era for the X-Men, so they're killing them all off with this one villain. But it's like, who gives a shit? They're just gonna be back in a couple of months. Like, why do I care about that? There's no gravity to that. There's no emotional weight.
This speaks to story dynamics, and what makes a story really great is the reader's ability to believe it. The more credible that story is, the greater the satisfaction the reader will experience if it's a well-told story. Because we've all tuned into movies or books, and here's a perfect example: Cocaine Bear. I was looking forward to Cocaine Bear. I thought it was going to be a really scary movie, but it was neither fish nor fowl. It was kind of jokey, but it wasn't scary, and it wasn't really scary, and the jokes weren't very funny. So the reader cannot enter into that story and live it and believe it. And the greatest movies and the greatest books, we enter into them to the exclusion of all else. And when you have this half-assed job bringing dead characters back over and over again, the reader's going to stop caring because he doesn't believe it.
Yeah, the reader should actually feel a sense of fear and anxiety. If there's a possibility that the character that they're invested in could die, the only way that happens is if they die, they're not coming back. So the big two have just completely lost the plot on that. And so, yeah, it's a big deal. I liked Wilkins a lot. I was like, oh, this poor guy. He's like, he's trying to, be really helpful with Ingrid over here. And she's kind of knocking him down a little bit. And she has a character growth moment through the story because of her interactions with Wilkins, which was nice. Yeah, that was utilizing a character who had a finite presence in the physical space, but he's going to have a lasting impact on other characters around him due to his actions and due to his interactions with them. And that's fantastic.
And because of the mistakes they made, right? Like his death is because of the mistakes that like Brian in his arrogance, which is something
if
really
Brian
important.
had made that error.
Yeah, exactly.
But if Ingrid hadn't told him to push it, like, where are we gonna? We really
true.
Yeah, but that's what's cool about the story, right?
My girl Lillian, it's not her fault.
Oh, wow.
It's not my fault if you fell into
so
a
innocent.
hole.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, Team Lillian.
Was not expecting the
Yeah,
heel turn.
I see either Ingrid because she told him how to do it. He would have never even conceived.
Oh, that's right,
of
because
it.
he does it. He's so Amish.
Like
he
a
wouldn't
muscle.
even know how to use it.
And he would come on, he was crushing on her so hard. He would have walked on glass and over lava if she said it would have made her hate him less or talk to him a little bit longer. And then Brian, I loved it. He had fuck it confidence.
Yeah.
He was like, I know what I can do. I can shove this thing in there. That's what she said.
And then he's like, so what if it's a trap? I'll Brian Solari it.
Yeah.
And he's like, can't you do computer stuff to fix the computer stuff? That's me also. I'm also so Amish that I take the hard drive and like throw it off the thing. I'd be like, I can't be trusted, dude. I cannot be trusted.
Reading Brian's just technological ineptitude, I was like, oh, look, it's my parents. How do I attach an image to an email? Okay, let me show you for the umpteenth time.
How often do you think Brian Solari sends an email? Oh my God. He probably doesn't even have a laptop. The guy's probably like, please, Brian, we have an email at work. Could you look?
No, I just use carrier pigeons.
Yeah, well, that would be better if he was allowed to fly.
Trust me, at the rate that technology advances, you're all going to be your parents someday.
That's true.
You're already turning to your kids saying, how do I do this?
Yeah, that's true. No, but
we had a 10-year-old on our last set, and he was teaching us all how to do everything. He was amazing. And I was like, wow, that's crazy.
It's like being a vampire. It's like having a younger generation to be like, teach me how to live in this modern world.
What is the TikTok? Show me.
No, it was I know that was a bold move, right? With Chuck, and I know that the audience is gonna have something. I didn't even see it coming. Like, I'm reading it through the script when it first when we got it, and I was like, first of all, Wilkins having powers, didn't see coming, obviously, and then him using those to essentially save the day, like that was totally unpredictable, right? But it was, again, you empathize with it, and you it's not like you set it up at random, right? It was through the conversation between himself and Ingrid. You see that you use the term fanboy, which is that's a good way to kind of define what that was. So considering that he's getting a chance to work with Ingrid, right? And you know, that's gonna come with it said of, oh, this is my moment, right? This is it. And he does it, and he sort of saves the day there. But that was a ballsy move, man, because I knew people were gonna be like, oh, I really like this character. But it's like, you knew that he was created to die. We didn't, as the reader, know that he was created. He was created to die. We had no idea. So it made that moment in that story so impactful. Yeah, I would love to see, I think it was Andrew that mentioned that, love to see kind of how does this impact them, right? Going in the story it is that they're going to tell, especially Ingrid, right? It's going to be really, really fun to sort of entertain that and really see what happens. But yeah, I mean, big shout out to Chuck for the overall sort of story. But yeah,
that's the kind of comment I like to hear, that I did setups and you didn't realize they were setups.
Yeah, no, I had no idea, and I'm reading it from a different perspective, right? When I first got it, less about the book, because I didn't see the images or anything, right? When I first got it, I saw it in script. I had zero idea, so I'm reading through it. I'm like, I'm very, very invested. Any change that I had to it was more continuity stuff and just really, really minor. But I'm like invested in the story, and I'm reading it and had no idea it was going to be taking the turn that it did. I had, again, I was completely blindsided by it. It was not a predictable story by any means. And to your point, Chuck, like, I think that's the point, right? That's a good thing, that's what it is that we got from it, because I was heavily invested. I mean, then and it was a different read as well, right? When we got Joe's art on it, it read differently. It's still the same story, but it's even far more impactful when you get to see like Wilkins, obviously, and what's happening there with the conversations that he's having with Ingrid, the fight with Galvin. Like this is again, it was just an incredible story, top to bottom. But I have to ask you about that as far as the villain creations and the implementation of them. You didn't go into it, which you easily could. You could have had one big baddie that was a part of the whole thing, but you didn't. It was really cool how you implemented it. It was yes, you had Ingrid and you had Lillian and Michael, but you also had under them other villains that were, again, really moving the story along. So you had Billy Bob, you had Galvin. So you're introducing all these other characters to the audience as well, characters again that you created. So what was it the team dynamic of Alphacore being multiple members that you thought, like, what was that influence that instead of going with like one big baddie, you went with like, hey, I'm gonna give them a whole like rogues gallery almost in one book?
Well, I wanted to present, this is a superhero police thriller mashup, so it's going to have a lot of action scenes, going to have a shootout, and punches, and chases, and then Lillian and Michael, they're not going to actively be involved here. They're using other characters as cat's paws. They're not showing their hand at all. So they would reach out to utilize known excepts who were criminals for them. And what was the most fun for me writing it is that Lillian and Michael were always working at cross purposes.
Yes.
They would never inform each other what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because they don't
each other's way.
each other.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got his contacts, she's got hers, and they're not sharing their Rolodex with each other. And so they were making mistakes too. I love stories where the characters complicate their own situations by continually making mistakes and not understanding the repercussions of it. So the heroes screw up, the villains screw up, and it leads to chaos and mayhem. And plus, you unleashed me on this new universe. I'm gonna populate it, baby. I'm gonna populate it.
I love that. And
Chuck
look,
is going to be the Genghis Khan of our universe.
yeah.
What the hell?
I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine because he introduced. Just so many characters within it, and again, the villains I think it was a nice. You got these again bigger villains, and then you had these like mini guys who were wreaking a lot of havoc. Galvan was fucking shit up. Like he was.
Yeah, he was.
He was like for real messing.
For the audience, that's Meth Gary.
It's Meth Gary.
Yeah, it's Meth Gary. Yeah.
And for everyone who doesn't know, Gary Nerdrotic, it was his reaction to the animated trailer, and he said he made it a self-deprecating joke, and then everybody
We just ran with it.
We ran with it. That's why I call him
Yes.
Meth Gary.
As the fans tend
maybe-
to do.
maybe
God bless Nerdrotic.
maybe it can be canonized. Maybe before Galvan became Galvan, he was known as Meth Gary because
Yeah.
he's dealt meth. Maybe we don't know.
We gotta canonize it somewhere.
Yeah.
I love that Chuck not only populated the world with characters, but I keep going back to this. You populated it with logistics and how things actually
Yeah.
function. And that's so important for the world to feel real and lived in and believable. You got to have more than just characters. There's got to be rules, right? And something that I think it was an incredible thing to provide for narrative opportunities and implications were things like showing the limitations of characters. Like there are a lot of people, it's like, oh, is Brian Solari just, basically a copy of Superman? No, if you
Not at all.
No, he is not.
No.
He is really not. He has limitations. We get to see those. We get to see the limitations of all these characters. But you also added in the wonderful bit, that line that Ingrid drops, which is your acceptabilities are like a muscle. They can grow and strengthen. Everybody probably has a different capacity, but you can improve by working it, right? And so that just opens up, just those two things open up so much narratively for our universe. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you bring up a great point with like, as we're all populating the world with within our books, whether it be myself, Chuck, Michael, Saskas, and the stories that it is that we're writing, like the characters aren't there just to be there, right? And that's one thing as a writer that I for sure try to avoid, like just having characters just exist just for the sake of it being a character, right? Or I can have them do this really, really cool thing. It doesn't really serve a purpose though with them being there. And what obviously Chuck, he did way better than what I ever could have fucking did it. Was you got Alphacore, we're learning more about them. You understand that they're part of the law enforcement. That's going to come with its set of rules. But all the villains that are in play, they have and they serve a purpose. You're going to get the same thing when you guys read Yaira, and you're going to see some familiar characters in there. Same thing can be said with Michael. He has a whole bunch of new characters that get introduced in Gooding that he created. It's so good, but none of them fell at random. It's like these characters are here for a reason, right? So it makes the world more believable. And I believe that if anything, and this is a good problem to have, I think the audience is going to have a difficult time gravitating towards who their favorite characters are going to be, right? Because
new T-shirt. Who's your favorite character?
Yeah. Another. What's your favorite part? Who is your favorite? With all of our characters, and some of those can be in various roles or different roles. Look, Gooding, for example, was the introduction of Gooding, and us doing a book based on Gooding was really determined by the audience, right? It was they gravitated towards that character, and I too, which I just wrote him in a way that I needed him to. He's moving the story along. I needed him to serve a bit of purpose there. And if the audience said we want to know more about it, so I like me and Mike talked about it, and then Mike just it takes everything to the next level. When you guys read that story, you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. But I think that's going to be kind of our theme here, right? It's going to be people are gravitating towards characters it is that they want. We're picking up that audience feedback. Maybe we do a one shot here. Maybe we do an ongoing series here. But it helps when all the writers, number one, are cohesive. We all communicate with each other. We know we're all on the same page. And I think that actually helps a lot, because I read Chuck's story and I'm like, okay, well, this happened in Chuck's story. So the next story that I tell, and I'm not going to NDA this, but in Yaira 2, there is an instance where how can I say this without?
Say it
Aren't
however
you
you want, boss.
I'm not gonna blow it up.
Just because you pay the bills
Yeah,
doesn't make
yeah.
you
I know I
exempt,
can't
Eric.
violate the NDA, but I will say there is something that happens in a different book, right? That you very much see the consequences of in Yaira too, right? And that's cool. Like that we're all on the same page, and it makes for a better sort of investment by the audience, because they don't. It is very much is a living, breathing sort of a universe that has all of these different things going on, and it's not just wrote at random. Like we're not giving Chuck a story and just saying, hey, it's a complete free for all. It's a free for all in the sense that, yeah, he has creative freedom, and the same can be said for Mike, same can be said for Saskas, and obviously myself. And it's a lot of freedom that comes with it being the first. Like we're at the beginning stages of the universe, and that comes with its line of freedom, but it's not random. It's not doing things just for the sake of doing things, and
Not
we're
out here
all in
just shooting from the
communication.
hip.
Right. Yeah, it's not just like, hey, it's not who are these characters? What is it? So things happen in Alphacore. The world of or the city of Flores Park is being fleshed out even more. So that's stuff that I'm taking into consideration with other stories. It is that I'm telling, and Saskas can say the same, and I'm sure Michael and everybody here can say the same. And that's what makes this sort of thing fun. I'm really invested in it, and it's all, like I said, it's therapeutic for me. When I read you guys' stories, I get inspired. I start writing like a son of a gun, and it's just overall fun sort of thing that we have here. So before we get
no
going,
one knows how creative you are, boss. Like you
Yeah.
always give props to everybody. I remember when you pitched the Rippaverse to me and Jen, and okay, wait, and you told us about ISOM. Because I know a lot of people are like, he doesn't have it all figured out. I was like, he's not telling you.
Yeah.
It's like David, it's like if you watch Twin Peaks and they're like, and Laura Palmer was a prostitute doing coke and having a weird, like that in the first episode. You can't do that. You need to drag it out. You need to figure out what's actually going on.
Yeah, like My Hero Academia. Deku doesn't do anything.
Oh my God,
for
Deku.
so
Don't
long.
get me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But you told me and Jen about ISOM, and we're like, I've never actually heard of a person having powers like that before. And it actually hit into something in the real, it's hit on something. Anyways, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. And because it was a creative point that I don't think has ever been the foundation of something, it kind of moved as a creative wildfire. I know Jen and I are affected by it. I know other people in the Rippaverse team are affected by it. And I know it's affected a lot of the different characters. And it's cool because you are so ridiculously creative, because you have done all these other things like Norfrica. Who would ever do something like that? Let's put Thor in like a metal band. Okay. Like what's that gonna look like? But you're in a metal band, right? So that's the cool thing about that. And I don't want to spoil anything, but 2024 is going to be insane, you guys. And it's because all of us have been planning stuff. Like, you think Alphacore had a hard time here? Oh my gosh. What Mike and Chuck are planning for these guys with Eric is insane. No NDAs, but one of the guys that Mike just made up and Chuck just made up, I want them to fight so badly. I want them to fight so badly. My two favorite guys now. Yes. And I don't even, I'm sorry guys. And I know I know what those guys are doing after even their intros. And I think you guys are going to be so stoked. I'm such a nerd. Jen's a nerd. I was wondering where all the nerds went, and it's here. It's in the Rippaverse. It's fucking awesome. And it feels like you're going back to the mothership and we're all talking the same language. Like Lillian and Michael, like, what are they going to do? I know it's going to come up, but yeah.
I will say the foundations of the characters. Like, I know people are going to read Yaira and be like, wow, this is amazing. But you gave us the building blocks of who she is. You told us who she was and who she wasn't, and what she does and what she doesn't do. And you really gave us a lot of creative control to be like, okay, why is she like that? Because you don't just become Yaira without, you know, a little bit of a history.
Yeah.
And man, you gave it's like you were like, hey, do you want to write like Wonder Woman and Black Widow? And like, here, just take them. Can I use any other character? Anyone you want.
Everybody.
And, hey, if there's someone you can't like use, just make someone up, make up anything. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be like a big thing that I'm like in like long development. Like, you're like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, but you know all of the characters, Eric. Like Jen and I have been hired to work on different IPs, and the people telling us about the IPs, they don't know anything about them. And you know all of these characters. Like I don't know if there's maybe another twin that we don't know about, because like emails, like you're streaming and then you're responding to stuff and you're working on 6 different books and they all have these different ideas behind them, and it's like it's cool because like, and then you'll pop in onto like page 32 and be like, this would be better here, and it's like, well, it's because he knows everything that's going on and he legitimately cares. That's why it is like this. Like, you've given us such a fun playground to play in.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I always dreamed about working for the other two, and they hired me and said the same thing as you, that, you know, they're so happy and they love us and they'll keep us working forever. And then they just stopped answering our emails. But you know what? 3 times lucky. 3 times lucky.
You know, Eric, you also set a tone.
Yeah.
For the whole franchise. I mean, I call it blue sky comics because there's optimism. You know, the heroes are really heroes. The bad guys are really bad guys. You know, there's none of this equivocation and weirdness we get across so many other comics.
Look, it was, again, everybody here is obviously, you know, instrumental to the growth of this, but you know, that I know I picked up a lot on hearing the complaints of people that have been in the industry, and I wanted to make sure that I could at least set everybody up for success. And I wanted you guys actually invested in it. It wasn't that I just wanted a Chuck Dixon story. Like, no, I wanted Chuck to be able to feel like he has some level of control in the direction that whoever he is writing is going, and he can tell that story without necessarily the limitations that he may get elsewhere. And that was very important. The same can be said for everybody here. It was like, I wanted you guys to, you know, that's why I was open. I was like, hey, okay, this is who these characters are. Make no mistake. But if you need characters to drive the plot, don't feel like there are those that, like, you have to use all the ones I created. Like, no, like, feel free to create. Like, Chuck did a great job. I tell people this all the time. Outside of the people that are on that cover that you got, and Mick Davies, right? Mick Davies does show up in Alphacore, but outside of them and everybody that's on that cover C, Chuck created everybody. Like, that was, all the villains are his. All that is his. And you're gonna read Yaira, you're gonna read a similar thing. It's like, yeah, there will be some characters that are there that I created, but as they, you know, we're telling these characters and their individual stories. These are a bunch of characters that Jen and Sylvia created, and Michael maybe has the most of everybody because it's like it's like Gooding, and that's it. And then you got everybody that he created in there because of the point, the perspective from Gooding that we're telling, and that it acts more almost as an origin than anything else. You're seeing so many different characters that are created. That's the point. Like, I want you guys to have fun. I want it to be enthusiastic. I want you guys to be enthusiastic and to really be invested in it, because the customers are going to benefit the most from that, and you guys are going to tell the best possible story that you can tell there. So for me, that's what all this is about. And like I said, yeah, I might own this company, but I have a lot to learn about, like, the art of it all, especially with story. I've been telling stories a while, but you guys have been telling stories a lot longer than I have, and there's a lot that I can pick up from. So still, I'm under no impression that I know everything, and this is why I think it's very, very important to have you guys that are all involved and allowing you guys to tell stories from your perspective. And again, the audience benefits from it as well, because we're very much different kind of writers here, and people are going to gravitate towards what they gravitate towards, and all of it combined makes for this kind of unique world here, man. So I'm having an absolute blast, and I'm thankful for having you guys here. So what I'm going to do, because there's a lot of super chats that I know are here. People talking about the story and
Oh,
everything.
you guys are here. Hi.
Yeah, right. Hey, chat. Hello.
Thanks for letting us yap at each other for an hour.
Hello, chat. Good morning, Marcos. Miles Mulholland is Miles Mulholland.
Yes,
Yeah, got
I see
it
him.
covered.
See him there. All these new members that are coming through. Appreciate all of y'all. We're gonna get to all those because I know there's some questions and some perspective here. Defendo 99, I appreciate you becoming a member. We got Brent as well with $100. Doesn't say anything. That there's a lot of money to not say anything. So shout out to Brent there. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much. We got Drive by Comment with a 10. The last scene with Brian and the ship was dope. Only thing missing from that dead drop was a Bitcoin address request. Like says I'm like, y'all don't got a spare laptop around for that drive. Well, I can see that. But yes, that last the scene where Eagles Nest kind of fucking it gets fucked up. Let's just say that, and it's because Brian is a little too quick to the punch there. It was awesome. It was a great scene, and seeing how Lillian and Michael are reacting to that was really, really cool to see. It was sinister. Iron Fox with a 5 said, I wrote a short screenplay today for a film festival for next year. I can't help but to think Ripper was on my shoulder telling me to be great. Hey, that works for me.
Threat?
Let them tell it. No, man, I do want you to be great, man. So I appreciate you and good luck on that, man. And I wish you nothing but the best. Iron Fox, shout out. Draven with a 10 says, reminder to Jen and Sylvia, this is Alphacore only spoilers.
Oh,
Thank you, Draven. Thank you.
Andrew pretending to be someone in
Andrew's sock account. Andrew, better keep them in check. He says, Draven, appreciate that. Yeah. We're only our NDAs. The only one that can be broken is the one pertaining to Alphacore. Big Bone, what's up with the 20 says Chuck did a great job of humanizing these cops. I can't believe you guys made me enjoy a story about law enforcement arm of the state. I had no interest in this. I bought it on a whim and I love it. Goddamn poor Wilkins. He says, he did do a great job of humanizing them. And look, it's a different sort of world, and it's cool to kind of think about that. Like it's a world where, or the city is at least, where there is you got people that may do good things that have special powers, but this is just a different thing where there's people that are part of, there's excepts that are specifically part of the law enforcement. So it just creates just this new and fresh feel because while I'm reading the story, we're all theorizing about, hey, how does this look? And Chuck is also telling us how some of this looks in a city where you have a specific wing of the police department that is tasked with dealing with these issues, but they're also excepts themselves. We don't see that much, if hardly at all. So appreciate that, Big Bone. Thank you so much. Miles Mulholland with a Canadian 2 says, when can we get Texas trustees?
That bank manager was actually kind of savage too.
Yeah.
That dig
I
that he
like
had
him.
towards Billy Bob about before he loses any more brain cells. Yeah, what he's got left.
That was good. That was good, man. Maybe I think there will be appropriate time for a lot of that. I do. Maybe that's a line. Like we've talked about after Alphacore, we're going to do some cool merch stuff because we don't have to limit it to the campaigns. So having
Club Merc stuff would be wicked.
Yeah, like Club Merc. There's Projexis, obviously in universe. There's some stuff in this upcoming project that I haven't announced.
You know what T-shirt I want.
Yeah, I already know you. I know what Chuck wants. I know what Chuck wants, and we're gonna get him that. So I would love to do like in universe stuff, like posters as well as merchandise items about in universe stores and buildings and banks and whatever it may be. So we're gonna do that for sure. I think that'll be very, very fun. We got Joker's Disciple with a 2 says, hell yeah, ready for Yaira, ready for MegaCon. Yes, let's fucking go. Yes, we will be at MegaCon. That is going to be fun. I'm glad you brought that up because I haven't talked about that today on the stream. So if you guys have not heard, we will be at MegaCon. the entire time, the 1st through the 4th. At least the Rippaverse booth will have a presence that entire time. You'll get to see those of us on the panel Saturday. That'll be Saturday morning. I think 11:30 is officially the time, and Saturday that we will have the first Rippaverse panel at MegaCon, and we'll get you guys, we'll keep you guys posted on what's going to happen like during the day, what time we're going to be doing signings and meetups. You'll get all that stuff very soon. We're kind of getting that organized right now. So if you have not got your tickets to be at MegaCon, we will be there. Saturday, though, is going to be a massive, massive, massive day for us. So look forward to seeing your Joker's Disciple and everybody else that will be joining us there. Wyatt Prince with a 5. Will we get an alien type heroes like Superman?
No, I'm laughing at something else.
Okay, yeah, something completely unrelated. It's what Chuck's laughing at. And would we get any Transformers type here, like transforming robots? Let's just say that there's some stuff cooking.
We're gonna have a Japanese ISOM, and instead of having his suit, he's in a mech.
Yeah.
It's never been done before.
Yeah.
Wow.
That Japanese Japanese. Oh man, that would be terrible. Dan Vass, by the way, I see you in the chat. Shout out, Dan.
Oh, Dan
him and I have been collaborating on some things that I can't wait for you guys to see.
The voice of an angel, that one.
Yeah.
Listen, Jesus Christ Superstar cover.
Yeah.
And Norman Jewison, the director of that, just passed away. He was a great Canadian director.
Yeah, he made us he did so much for making us have a national cinematic identity. Did Moonstruck as well. Dude is a genius.
Yeah. Shout out Dan, and big shout out to Wyatt. But look, there's gonna be room for a lot of stuff happening with the Rippaverse. So don't you worry. We got a lot of cool things on the way. Defendo 99. Oh yeah. Defendo 99 with a 10 says the brightest light burns the fastest. R.I.P. Wilkins, the king of heroes.
True.
Abradolph Linkler. Wow. With an 11 says love speculating about accepts or their powers. Braxwell and Solaris seem similar power-wise right now, but I'm sure time will tell. Think ISOM gets stronger every fight. Blink twice to confirm. I can't do that. I can't confirm at all what's going to be going on with that. But I will say this. Yes, that's the fun part of the fandom. We do see you guys in our guild talking about who can do what. That's what this is about. And we're not necessarily here holding your hand. Not at all, actually. That's kind of defeats the purpose of what it is that we're trying to build. We're trying to show you. And that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of this whole ordeal, is that you guys are picking up on things. Sure, some things are a little more direct than others, but you're picking up on what it is that we're doing. So thank you guys there. Tommy with a 7 says, thanks all for making comics. I actually want to buy again. Will we see XF's power gradually grow and get stronger? Also, Solo Solaris series, please trust me. Trust me, you will be seeing a lot of Solari, and there are some things that we're cooking up that will be centered around him. So be on the lookout for that. But look, I guess the only way that I can answer that is it depends on the accept. It's not necessarily look. Yeah, I guess Andrew was talking about it earlier. I mean, there's a point in the book as well where this kind of thing is discussed. You can imagine that just like with any skill set, someone that has superpowers are going to be able to do things as they wield it more, do things that they couldn't before. And yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. But I see as far as growing, getting stronger, a lot of that's going to be determined by the actual character, and if that makes sense for their individual powers. But there's going to be some level of growth with every character it is that we have here. That's going to happen naturally just in the story.
Except for Wilkins.
Well,
Damn
yeah,
it.
Wilkins is dead.
Damn it, Chuck.
He can't really grow. Not like that, at least, because he's out of there. So there's that. My man's Dan Cotter. What's up, man? With a 5. Love the ending. Sets up a lot of tension to play out in the police force. How it will impact the way people of Flores Park view accept. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine it's and not all accepts are equal, as I guess Alphacore does really highlight that, not just in their powers, but in their motivations for sure. And how they willed it. So for sure, you're going to get a lot of that and entertained. And yeah, stories. That's what I love about everything here is that it has consequences, and no writer here is really not considering other people's work because we do have our creative meetings, and we're all considering what everybody else is doing in events that happened, right? So this event happened, so there's going to be consequences. There's going to be things that happen out of that, so we have to tell stories with that sort of thing in mind, and it can create a challenge because it's not as much of a free-for-all like I was saying earlier. And that's cool. That brings out the best of us, and we're considering that this is a world with consequences. And I can understand where a lot of, definitely with these bigger universes that have been around, you don't really feel that there's much consequence to anything happening, especially when they're happening simultaneously. So, Mark with a 5 says the Schuster additive 1, 2, 3 or exponential are the advent of accepts and the war of separation related to each other. Just wait. The story of the war of separation will be told. Okay. You guys, if you got the cards, which you should have if you have not already, maybe too late. Maybe you can get some at MegaCon. But yeah, that story is going to be told, and it is a story. Let's just say that. That is it very much determines and really highlights the landscape of the Rippaverse, at least this pocket of it. So you guys will see soon enough. Trust me. Bigelow Gaming with a 5. Hello, everybody. Just asking for some advice on being original while being inspired. Being inspired, I guess, by characters from the big two, people from your life. I for sure want to go to Mike with that. He can probably answer this. He's seasoned. Chuck obviously can as well. I'll let everybody, because everybody here outside of myself and Andrew and Igor have done something with the big two, right? At some point. So I'll let Mike go first. How do you? Yes, there's all these characters that have been created, but how do you approach being original? Like some people are going to see this with Gooding as well. How do you approach being original, considering all these stories have been told?
Carry a pen and a pad with you at all times, and write down anything that interests you, be it a name, an idea, a plot twist, or something. And bear in mind that we're all unique individuals. Many times in the past, I've drawn on people I've known personally and fictionalized them because they had a personality which worked for my fiction. Keep your ears open. When I say be original, that goes to dialogue too. Whenever I hear somebody use a phrase that I've never heard before, but I know instinctively what it means, I write that down and I will use it, but I'll only use it once. If you just draw on your own experiences and people that you know to make your characters as realistic as possible, that's most of the battle. The powers and so forth, that's just the icing on the cake. I always got to laugh when people say, well, I'm going to create a comic book. And the first thing they do is to start writing down the powers that all the people have. That's not important. That's the last thing that you do. What's important is their personalities and who they are.
Absolutely. Chuck, what about you? I mean, you obviously wrote characters of several different genres. You've done Star Wars stuff. You've done, obviously, worked your mark, but done stuff DC. And even now, coming up with something original. How is that approach with you?
Well, you just I said this in a previous podcast. Every writer all day long should be asking themselves one question: How do I do this better? Is there a different way of doing this? Is there a better way to say this? And you just sort of take it. I mean, upcoming character for the Rippaverse, I take a familiar genre and I kind of turn it on its head. And present a different kind of character than you would expect in that genre, and that's just a way to keep it fresh and keep it original. And like Mike said, if you can, you get the voices of your characters from people then you got built-in consistency. I've written characters where, well, he talks like my dad, so I know how my dad talks, so he's always going to talk like my dad. He's going to say things my dad would have said, and also, like Mike said, the unusual phraseology. I mean, everybody has their own things they say that nobody else says, but everybody understands. Yep. So, it's all about that and understanding human relationships. Larry Hama once said, "Don't write about human relationships until you've had one." So,
Mhm.
Well, that's why all the mainstream writers suck.
yeah. I mean, so that's it. Just constantly think: is there a better way to do this?
Yeah.
And don't ever like do pop culture references and quote movies and things like that, because that's just lame. All you're doing is reminding somebody of a movie that's better than what they're reading.
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Oh my God, I'm so sick of that one.
Say, folks, I got to bow out.
Yeah, Mike. I was just about to ask, man, if anybody needed to tap out at the hour and a half mark. Mike, man, I appreciate you stopping by, man, anytime. And I can't wait for people to read Polymath, man. This is gonna be really, really good, man. I appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us, man.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to meeting you.
Oh yes, we'll be seeing you in Orlando, man. Mike Barron will be there. All right, Mike, take it easy, brother.
Can't wait to
Take care,
hug
sir.
you, Mike, and we
See
love
you guys.
sitting.
See ya. Big shout out to Mike. But yeah, to that point, like I love what you guys are mentioning about like dialogue and everything. Like that's something that I really take serious, and I love that some people use it as a knock. And I'm okay with that. But like with certain characters and some of the lingo it was that they would use, for example, in ISOM, you had some people who was just flying over their heads, and they were like, I don't really pick up from it. I was like, well, they're from Texas, right? They talk like Texans, and you're from New York City. It's maybe it's different lingo. Even the phrasing, for example, that ISOM uses, like his catchphrase per se, the old catch street element. Like this is something that I picked up growing up here. And it stuck with me, right? And it's how you can implement those ideas, because that is going to be unique to your experience, right? And there's cool ways, definitely once you start combining so many different elements, there's cool ways to come up with original concepts. I know they haven't given it away. They almost did, Jen and Sylvia, with like ISOM and some of what's going on with him. Like that all came from like I was thinking about it. I'm like, this has not been done. This has never been done. So I'm going to do it this way. But yeah, there's plenty of inspiration that I got from that. Just living, just a lot of originality it's within arm's length for sure. So I'll let you guys answer that question as well, Saskas. Like how you guys definitely having been in the film industry as well. Like how do you guys approach trying to tell those original stories while also you might draw some influence, but you're trying to tell something that's fresh and new.
Well, I would say never discount the beauty that is the lens that is yourself. I have done things, or I have taken things from like video games and comic books and other movies, and I've Tarantino'd it. I've put all of it into my films. But the way that I see it and the things that I pull from them, you wouldn't be able to look at American Mary, our second film, and be like, well, that's Legally Blonde, obviously.
Right?
That's an ode to American Psycho, if you think about it. But to
Right.
me, I was like, oh no, that's so obvious. It's so like that. So if you're looking at the characters that the big two have done, particularly if you're thinking about who they used to be back in the day when you first fell in love with them, take that inspiration and also that feeling that you have. I know when Rogue punched someone and then called them sugar after. That's just a part of me. And it just, and Buffy, things that have been in other things, they just become a part of you. And the way that you put it in your own work will be different. Don't be like a pen and paper copier. Like no one's going to say with great power comes great responsibility ever again, because it's been said the best way already.
Yeah. And I think what Mike said is about listening and kind of taking out around the world, because you can kind of feel trends before they happen. You can kind of feel how the world is feeling. You can kind of feel how you're feeling and put that in a superhero narrative, which is a lot more fun than a drama, which tends to be boring. That's why we do horror movies, so people can explode during the movie. And so, I want to show up on set. So
I always say a horror movie is like a drama where something worth watching happens.
Yeah, 3 really great murder scenes. But I think you got to think of the class clown in your class in school. Think of the worst teacher you've ever had. Think of your first boss.
Think of your bully.
Those guys have little pieces of their personality that you're like, ooh, Like, for example, you'd be like, oh, I know dudes like Michael Copper.
I hope you don't.
I've been to those parties, and you kind of like see them and they talk to you and you're like, oh my God, you kind of, yeah. And you kind of like filter that in. Like, I know wrestlers and bodybuilders and professional athletes. A lot of that went into Yaira. A lot of that went in there because I see how different it is when a woman who's 6'3" and blonde walks into a room, as opposed to me, a little hobbit, walking into a room being like, hi guys,
you all got a ring to destroy.
You got a ring, we'll take it to Mordor. But you know, it's you kind of think about what it would be like to be in that person's body and how the different reactions would be. Like, I mean, like, it was so fun pretending to be Brian Solari, but I based so much of him on Dean Cain, because when I worked with him, he was Superman, and I was like, wow, there's so many great personality pieces to put in there.
Yeah, and Dean Cain is the nicest man you will ever meet. He's so charming. His turn of phrase, he could charm a fish out of water.
But at the same time, he is a badass. Like,
yes.
when we worked on him,
a badass and a sweetheart.
When we worked on our movie together, he had a coordinated fight scene every day, except once he had 2. So he would go through everything with the stunt team, and then he'd go to the gym and he would work out, and he would do the whole coordinating the fight sequence so he could come in and do the fight in the morning. And like, I feel like Brian Solari is like that. Like, he just does the work. He does it even if he's frustrated with like his supervisors.
Yeah, he's a good soldier. He's a good soldier.
So just take that. And also, if somebody is based on like your mom and dad, man, you know your mom and dad so well, you really know how to put that personality into somebody and make it real.
Also, I like to write what I don't see. If I like to watch a movie and be like, oh, I wish they would do that, then I can put it in my own movie and be very satisfied. The ending of Yaira, no spoilers, but man, that's a satisfying end.
We would have never been allowed to write Yaira.
No, we would do a lot of the things you've done.
It's good. It is so good.
I guess also, like, if I can put my 2 cents in this conversation, like, visually, you wanna once you have that voice, you wanna go one of 2 routes. Like, obviously you can do something else, but you can go for the obvious one which isn't bad by itself, like where visually there are elements that are coordinated and in resonance with the personality that you created. But you can go the other way around, where like there is a voice and a type of character. Like, let's say you created a character that resembles your dad, but you can create contrast by like going the other way around in terms of visual style, where you would have like, oh, I would never believe that this character is like this. Like, that's an interesting character already. If you have like you see villains all the time, like visually they are the most appealing most of the time. They are well dressed, like Copper and Lillian. Like there is a contrast there, where you know they're evil, but there is something like in the outside that kind of drags you in. So that's one way to approach character creation, where you can create contrast between what you're writing and what you're seeing. That builds characters like Hannibal or something like that. They are like instigating just to look at and see their actions and stuff.
Well, I think and when it comes to character creation, and especially since we're talking about the superhero genre here, there's a lot of derivatives out there, a lot of what we call character archetypes, right? But like, all right, these characters kind of all fit into the same kind of subcategory. These ones kind of fit into the same kind of subcategory. There's nothing wrong with utilizing that, but I think the trick is saying, okay, what is it that myself and other people love about this archetype? What do they love about this type of character? What are the key tenets there that are kind of a must-have, but how can I take those and repackage it and kind of inform that character in a way that is unique to my method of storytelling and makes this character an individual, as opposed to a Batman copy or a Superman copy or a Spider-Man copy or so forth, right? Like, people like certain types of characters for a reason, right? But the question is, well, why do they like that character? What is it? Because it's got to be more than just the powers, right? There's something else there. And being able to repackage that and have characters that's like, this is how we get friends and family into things that we like all the time. We say, oh, hey, you like this type of thing. You might also like this, right? That's marketing. So how do you do that with storytelling in such a way that there's enough familiarity there to where you can sell somebody on it, but there's uniqueness and individuality there to where they don't just say, well, why don't I just read Spider-Man, right? I've already got that character. Why don't I just do this? What makes this character unique? What makes this character special? Why would I read this instead of, or at least alongside of, this other thing that's already been around for decades?
It's so true. You make the person care. Like, Chuck, you wrote my favorite type of guy, the one that's unreleased. My favorite type of guy, and you did stuff.
You're that guy's first fangirl.
I love him so much, and you made him do stuff that type of guy I've never seen do before, and it made me like him even more.
It's so good, man.
Yeah, I liked in Alphacore. I mean, I love 70s cop movies, and I couldn't wait to get to the scene where a superior dresses down our hero. And that this city isn't your own personal shooting gallery, Callahan. That scene. And I just really had a good time writing it because Brian's getting dressed down, and the guy's really adamant about it, and Brian's taking his crap. But the reader knows, Brian could basically throw him into the next state if he wanted to. So it's kind of like, this guy's dressing down like a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
And I liked everything about that scene. When I was done with it, I was really pleased with it. Really patting myself on the back because I wanted to include it. It's got to be in every cop drama.
It was so good.
It was good, man. It was again, it's that perspective that makes it so nice, man. Because it is very much unique understanding like what Alphacore means to the city. But Bigelow, appreciate that. By the way, we got Joe Music with a 5 at this point. I'm guessing saying I'll have to collect Dragon Balls to bring back Wilkins. Wrong genre, wrong franchise. Dragon Balls on in the Rippaverse, unfortunately. Spider Bro with a 5 says, "What's up, everybody? I loved Alphacore. Shout out," says Chuck Dixon. "You are a legend indeed." He is. I can't wait for Yaira. Yes, it is on the way, and you guys are gonna love that so much. Lee Kendler with a 5 says, "Is Billy Bob from an Oklahoman trailer park?" He gives off that. What was I guess you can at least speak to that. What was the kind of thought process in the creation of Billy Bob?
I saw him more as originally from Arkansas, but
I can see that for sure, being from Arkansas, 100%.
Yeah, I live down here in Florida, and it's a land of trailer parks.
Yeah.
And you got one kind of trailer park, which is the retiree trailer park, and then you got the trailer park where there's a bass boat, or some other kind of crazy monster truck parked out front, and those are the native Floridians, and they're all awesome people. I mean, when you meet one, it's like meeting an endangered species. Someone who born and raised in Florida. And I always appreciate talking to them. So I guess Billy Bob's a little bit of that too.
Coming from comics, I love the creativity that you took with naming your characters, because I love classic, I love alliteration, I love on the nose stuff when it comes to naming characters. That's some of my favorite stuff about comic books. And so I wonder how many people actually picked up on Billy Bob Quinn's initials. or for sake of argument, Galvin's name, right?
Yeah.
And how that's tied to his powers, basically, in at least conceptually. I love that kind of stuff. And you don't see enough of that, certainly not done well.
It's a lesson I learned from Alan Moore, is make your readers feel smart.
Yeah.
So if your reader figures it out, it's like finishing a crossword puzzle. Whoa, I accomplished something.
I love
little things like that for them to figure out, and then they feel good about themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that.
You made me feel smart, Chuck. That's a hard
There
thing
you go.
to do. Thank
There
you.
you go.
There you go. We got Dan with a 5 says, "Please make the mind control guy a big villain. I want to know everything about him. Depending on his limitations, he can be a very big problem."
Yep.
Harry B became a member. Jasonosaurus became a member. Oh, a gifted one. Appreciate that. And Brass Monkey became a member here as well. So shout out Brass Monkey. We love to see you. Got a 50 from Juggernaut.
Wow.
Which is not cheap. Was a little late. So not sure if you touched on this yet, but what can you tell us about shooter scale for measuring XF abilities? Do all accepts have to register with the government to and be tested? What happens if they don't? I'll answer some of this actually, as far as how that kind of mixes in. You know that there is some level. I don't want to say just straight registration. Let's say documentation. Let's say that by some areas and levels of authorities with accepts. You pick up some of that in ISOM 1. I would, if you have not read that, I would encourage you to go read the part where, I don't know, Yara drops his ass on a car, and then there's a conversation in the hospital that is happening with that. So look, and you can imagine it's a world with accepts. Okay, there's going to be somebody's documenting it, and it makes sense definitely with maybe again law enforcement and having some level of documentation with these guys that you're gonna read some more about. So as far as the registry and all that, give us some time to tell some stories, and we'll see what happens. Let's just say that. But you can read Alphacore, read ISOM 1 as well, though, where you get a bit that there's some level of documentation going on with accepts, at least in that area. Let's say that. So
yeah, when I wrote the Schuster scale reference, I thought, we're going to be hearing more about this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think about it. I was thinking of Joe Shuster, co-creator of Superman.
Yeah.
And I thought there's got to be like a Richter scale, a Scoville scale. There's got to be some scale for these guys' powers that's established by science. And so I just thought, well, let's name it after Joe Shuster.
Yeah, one of the greatest things about our fandom is we've got such great fans. Best in the world, as Eric says all the time. And
the best. Can't wait to hug all of you
Absolutely.
in Florida. Will all of you be in single file line? I hope.
I'm sure they will be to see you. But what I was getting to is that when they first got their hands on the book, immediately our theories chat channel in our Gilded server was blowing up, talking about the Schuster scale. Immediately.
I knew it.
Immediately. And that comes only from investment. You only get people to start thinking about theories, talking about like, oh, what are this character's origins? You know, how do their powers actually work? You know, what was this thing in reference to, and so forth. You only get that if you've got an invested audience, an enthusiastic audience that cares about what you're doing. And we've seen so much of that already. And we only have 3 books out so far.
No.
And I just look at that. Yeah, I just look at that and I'm like, man, y'all don't even know the tip of the iceberg right now. You haven't even gotten just the tip yet. Like this is where we're at. 2024 is going to be wild. And I can't wait to see all of our theory chat channels blowing up because of it.
Oh, it's gonna go nuts.
Oh, wait till y'all meet Yaira, guys. Wait, just wait.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. That's oh man, that's gonna be so good. So
And that secret book y'all been working on.
All the secrets are so good. I'm so happy to be an employee here because the first thing I did is I went to ISOM 3 and I was like, let's get it done.
Let's find out.
How does this thing wrap up?
Yeah.
Such an honor, such a privilege, and so many oh shit moments. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
And that the stuff that we can't talk about yet, Chuck, but we refuse to stop talking about.
Yeah.
Wow. You also really know how to open a book too. I can't tell
man,
you.
the opening of that book is so good.
There was like books with Daredevil for a while where it was him and another person talking in his office, and it was the whole book. He never even became Daredevil, and I remember and he was hardly even in it. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I just want, like, when I watch a Batman, I want Batman there the whole time. I don't want like here's his like
here's Vicky Vale, she's gonna solve the crime. I don't want that.
And she's secretly a Batman now too.
Don't want it, just want Bruce.
But your openings are so cinematic in the most polite way. You just grab people by the balls and refuse to let go.
You're very Brian De Palma.
Yeah, I mean, when they used to send DC Comics back when I was working at DC, I'd get all these comics, and I remember seeing #1 issues, and it opens with 2 people talking. And it's like, this is the first issue. I don't know who they are. I don't care. no one's going through a plate glass window. I mean, what do I care?
Right.
I remember back in the 80s, they used to work Marvel style. I don't know if they still do, where you just gave the artist the plot and it was up to the artist to do all the heavy lifting, do all the storytelling work. And I remember an artist came in, I was there, and he came into the Marvel offices and he had a double page spread of Spider-Man leaping through the plate glass window of a bank to foil a bank robbery. It's just an awesome spread. And we're all standing around admiring it. And the editor of the book said, Spider-Man wouldn't do that. He would get cut with glass. Why would he do that? And the artist said, why is he running around in that stupid costume?
Yeah.
So, it's like, yeah, you got to open big. You got to engage the reader. Comics are an immediate experience. They must delight and engage on every page and every panel.
Yeah.
You got to draw them in early.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Yeah, and I think when
ahead.
Joe mentioned like the way Michael Bay does stuff, like for better or worse, like he's the most criticized director ever, but that's something that he values, right? He values how you feel as opposed to like the realism behind the scene. And that's one way you can approach action, right? Like, Spider-Man wouldn't go through a window because he would cut himself. Is that really fun? Like, do you want to see, like, or do you want to see the version of that's fun, that's
I don't see
exciting,
the version that looks
like,
cool as hell.
Yeah,
it
if you
sounds like
if
Peter
I
was
look,
trying to get through, right? There's then the next page is like, why did Peter go through the glass?
yeah,
Why did
maybe
he have
had
to
the
go and
reason,
hurt
right?
himself that he had to get there right away? And
I'm
then,
of
Right.
the thought that it's like the Matrix. His spider sense, he went through, but no glass shredded him. He just moved his
Yeah.
body.
yeah, he
perfectly.
Or maybe
Y'all
he
never
got
heard of
cut.
spider
Yeah.
sense? It's a thing.
Yeah.
But
There's
that
so
was a
much
question
stuff
the
that he
reader,
can do.
no reader was ever going to ask themselves.
No,
Yeah.
they
No.
would have
The
been
reader
like,
just
"Oh,
wants it to
you're
look cool."
badass.
I
Yeah.
draw comics and I'm sitting here thinking, man, that's a cool double spread. I'm not thinking, oh, that's stupid. Like Spider-Man wouldn't do that. I'm like, yeah, now I want to draw that. I want to draw all the shattered glass around and
Oh.
him just like jumping through. But that's what's cool about comics. It doesn't have to be like all realistic all the time.
No.
Has to get a story through, and that's it.
We
It's all
create our
about
own
emotion,
reality.
man. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the point.
And all you have to do is get your reader to believe it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
100%. The Gilkman, hey man, it's good to see you here with a 10. Says, hell, love the product coming out so far from the Rippaverse. Can't wait to see what else comes out. And he hoped that the Rippaverse will make an appearance at Fan Expo Boston one year. Look, we're obviously ramping up kind of our presence at some of these cons, so you never know. If it makes sense for us to be there, absolutely. We obviously built a relationship with that Fan Expo. So we'll see. We'll see. Don't put it past us. 3D Honda with a 5. Alphacore, first comic I ever read. And now I'm ordering back orders of Batman and Superman now as well. Thanks for being the one I took the plunge with. Thanks. Look, there's a lot of people that got into comics through the Rippaverse, through one of our books. Look, man, that's a responsibility that I take very, very seriously. We know we're going to get a lot of new readers. And I'm trying to do everything that I can to make sure to make sure that you guys are entertained enough to stick around and just get into the medium, man. Just want to make sure that we I want you to be here. I want you to stay here and enjoy it, no matter whose stuff that it is. So that's what it's about here, man. So
3D Honda, I envy the hell out of you, man. Your first comic book was Chuck Dixon's Alphacore.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's
That is pretty awesome, man. That is. I mean, it's
I
not.
apologize in advance, 3D Honda. For the money you're going to be spending.
Oh man, this is that's a what? It's going to be a hard act to follow for a lot of people. You got a great storyteller and a great artist on that. So don't expect everything to be to that standard. I'll just tell you that much. So we got CJ with a 5. Hail to all of you. Thank you for the great books. Keep up the great work. Love to see you here as always, CJ. Appreciate you. Our man's Marcos. Rippaverse is on. Says the crashing ship is such an epic way to showing the unknown capabilities of the villains. It also is a great way to show the heroes being actual heroes, saving people. The shot with Brian Braxwell saving civilians was great. That was a great addition. There by Chuck. to add that in there. That was great. You got to see heroes being heroes and saw Braxwell saving. I love that
He's
panel.
got the kids under his
Yeah,
arms.
I love that. It's so good. So big shout out to Chuck for that. But yeah, to your point, Marcos, you get to see the heroes being heroes. That's what it is they do. So that's awesome. Scorpio with the Gooding deal right there says 2024 is going to be a great year for comics. Question Galvin's friend Samuel Lewis Montana. His name was bolded in the book. Will we be seeing him soon? Scorpio asked. So that's more of a question for Chuck.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
There you go.
It's all a possibility.
It is.
If I gave the guy a full name, I must have plans for him.
There you go. Recovery Anonymous with a 5. I like the Rippaverse ethics, specifically about not doing retcons and reboots. Any plans to do compendiums of and the like? Glad there won't be multiverses. Yeah, that's part of our rules. But look, there will be plenty of collections and cool things that we're gonna do as we tell more stories. We're kind of just at the beginning right now. So once we get to where, you know, after Yahaira, especially after Alphacore, after ISOM 3, excuse me, that will be a way that we can, maybe I give you the whole advised arc. You get a mix of maybe we do like, I don't know, maybe it's a trade paperback, maybe it's a hard cover of all the first stories. You know, I like ISOM book, Alphacore book, and Yaira book, right? Those are all things that can be a thing if that's something that you guys want. So like the number 1. So I'm all for cool things like that if it makes sense, you know.
How do we feel about leather-bound editions? I'm asking for a friend.
I actually know I know that friend, and yes,
we know that friend.
I know that friend, and yes, absolutely. I am game for that, 100%.
Leatherbound the Ira collection sounds pretty good.
Oh, that'd be sick.
I'm game for
Iron
that.
leather.
Leatherbound.
Wow.
I'm game.
Different.
CJ with a 5. Give me Yaira before I turn into cat food. A cat food eating distraction.
Can't help you there.
Yeah, but no, it will be dropping very, very, very soon. We're cleaning stuff up. We'll have some announcements going into these next couple of weeks for you guys. Cerrone Almighty, what's up? Love to see you here. Becoming a member. Violence is hero. What is the false? Or what's the Fawcett Act? It says volunteers hero with a 2. Well, you got a little bit of somewhere. I mean, I don't know if Chuck wants to give you.
The Fawcett Act. That's another reference. Fawcett used to publish Captain Marvel comics before he's a business. It's just nothing happens in the world that the politicians don't get involved and pass laws about. So they're trying to, it's part of the Schuster scale. It's just a reference to governmental involvement in trying to get a handle on all of these superpowered characters.
Yeah.
Cool.
Miles with a 2 says, any chance Rippaverse will attend Calgary Expo? Sure, why not? Look, there's a chance for sure. Like there's a chance any of these big expos and cons, there's a chance that we will have a presence there. When that will be is just a different animal. Again, it got to make sense for us, and if it does, we'll be there. Maris Gage with a 5. Thanks for the fun, everyone. That Wilkins and Valdez story was awesome, and the double page with Wilkins at the end was so good. I love that as a poster.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm game for that. We have as well. Oh man, it's so good. And Mr. Hat with a 5 say, hey everyone, congrats on the success. Chuck, besides the superhero genre, what genres do you enjoy writing? He asked.
Well, westerns are my absolute favorite genre. And I like writing war stories. I'm writing a series of Medal of Honor comics now for Association for United States Army. So
That's so cool.
You can read them online. Go to ausa.com and you can find a whole bunch of Medal of Honor comic book stories.
There you go.
Guys who gave their all.
There you go. Okay. So I think I got through. Yeah, that was the last one. So I think I got through everything. So I'm gonna go round table without NDA and us. And by the way, part 2 of this will be tomorrow. You'll see myself. I think Andrew's joining us. The sisters as I can't remember who else is on there. There'll be some other guys that are good. Eric Weathers, he'll be there as well. That'll be fun. So 1:30, it'll be on Az's channel. But I'm gonna go around table and let everybody. I want you guys to let everybody know, kind of again, without NDAing yourselves, what you've been working on. I know that may be a little difficult.
Are you sure?
That may be a little difficult, but just like so people can kind of understand what our jobs here are and what it is that we're doing. So obviously here, you guys know ISOM 3. I got a whole bunch of other characters that I've created. Here, stories that I'm going to be telling in the future, obviously handling a lot of the business stuff as well here, but that's where all my time goes. If I'm not streaming, which is again a few times throughout the week, you can best believe I'm working on something creatively. So be on the lookout. Let's just say that we are going to have some announcements coming very soon. I may have an answer as early as tomorrow when the Braxwell shirts will finally go up for sale. I know you guys are really y'all want that. You saw it at the end of the Alphacore book. That was not a bait and switch. That for sure is a thing. It will be a thing very soon. So be on the lookout for that as well. So that's what I've been cooking up outside of ISOM 3. That there's some NDA stuff that I'm working on as well. That I can't wait for you guys to get in on. But also, we got MegaCon. We're preparing for that as well, going into next month, very early next month, first of next month, actually. So that's what I have going. What about yourself, Chuck? I mean, you're cooking up a lot with the Rippaverse.
Well, Joe and I mean, we hit it off. You put together some sort of a powerhouse here, yes. Two of us together. And our favorite game is, you know what the Rippaverse needs? So we've created 2 characters upcoming, and they are as far apart on the Schuster scale as you can get. Yeah. So it's two different superhero genres we've created. And also Eric has assigned me and I wrote the first part of it, basically a backstory for a lot of the stuff going on in the Rippaverse now. And then, I'm going to get to Alphacore 2. I've been thinking a lot about it, the aftermath of Alphacore 1 and what happens next.
There you go. Igor, you're tapped in, you're helping us day to day with our illustrations and everything. And a lot of people might not know that, like all of this stuff that you guys see that is like on a graphic or something, it's all Igor. Igor's doing all of that stuff. So, big shout out to him. But aside from that, man, what all you got going?
Yeah, so I take part in a lot of the projects that happen at the Rippaverse. So at some point, I'm going to be tapped in to illustrate some character or two that I had no idea existed before, which is always fun. I just illustrated my first Gooding, which was really fun. Yeah. So
can't wait to show you guys that.
Yeah, I had fun with that. And also I'm like over here with like working on Yair nonstop now. So that's the best. That's before the campaigns when I work the most. So that's the fun part, because then we're working on stuff for the YouTube, and I'm working with Jordan, who is amazing, video editor and animator on other projects. She always has some use for my cartoons and drawings. So yeah, I have a comic book coming out. Actually, if I can shout out my man Paranoid American. He's releasing a comic book that I worked on with Alex Stein and other members of YouTube and podcasters, which is coming out next week, and it's gonna be real fun to read through. I did interiors and cover for that, and I also work with animation studios, so there's always something Dota 2 related coming out that has my work in it. I'm always sharing on Twitter. But the stuff that keeps me busy is the Rippaverse. So if you get that Braxwell shirt, once it's out, it's my design, my colors, my ink, everything.
Also, shout out to that Ingrid sweater.
Yes,
yeah,
that's yours as well.
Obviously the Yaira shirt, right? The big Yaira shirt. That's all Igor. That's all his stuff.
I'm always happy to see people tag me on those. Like the Yaira shirt always made me happy, because it's the first thing that we did that came out. other
Yeah.
than the back cover. So I'm always happy. In Alphacore, I got the surprise. I didn't know Weathers didn't tell me that he put like before the last page, there's an illustration that I made as well of the three of them, like a totem or something like that. So I'm always having fun with those little, like the participation that I have in this universe. I'm always happy with it. But tag me, send me photos of the Braxwell shirt once it's out, the English sweater. I'm always happy to be a part of this. It's always fun. Like I have my dream job. I keep drawing like characters and backgrounds and stuff for the Rippaverse. I couldn't be happier to do that.
There you go. What about you? Andrew, obviously you're tapped in on everything really that we're doing creatively, man. So what's up with you?
My turn to try and not NDA? Is that what
basically?
Spoil something. Go for it.
I think don't be a temptress. That's not nice. Man, I said this on our last stream. I am super blessed to be surrounded by so many creative individuals, and I get to get early eyes on all of these projects. Not to make y'all in the chat jealous or anything, but one of my favorite things about being able to do so is seeing the cohesion that's coming together for our universe so early on. That shows that there's an investment from the writing team here to make sure that this universe feels cohesive and stays that way. They're all talking, they're all discussing, like, what are your plans for this character? How do you plan on using this character in the future? What's going on in the next story? That way they can actually all be informed of what's going on with each of these characters. And so when I'm reading the scripts and looking at the pencils for, Yaira and Gooding and Redacted and Redacted and Redacted, it's so awesome to see. And I can promise you guys that when we say we are committed to giving you quality and constantly improving, that's not just a catchphrase. That's not just lip service. That's not us blowing smoke up your ass. That's, hey, we want you to have the best because you're the best customers. And we also want the best for ourselves, right? We believe in what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And we want to actually give you the best we possibly can because we want to be proud of what we're creating here.
For sure.
And we are so far, and that's only going to grow. So you guys are in for a real treat. ISOM 3 is Eric's best writing yet. It's Cliff's best work yet.
Hands down.
Deborah and the sisters killed it with Yaira 1. Yaira 2 is going to be even better. All the other books that we've got coming down the pipeline, man, when you guys finally see what we've been working on that you haven't heard about yet, you're going to lose your minds. And I can't wait to see it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a good one, man. It's so much that we're sitting on. Saska, what do you guys have going?
Well, it's been a really boring week, boss. We haven't really been.
Oh yeah. I know the NDA on that one.
Ed and I haven't been up to anything at any time at
Just
all.
a lot of sleeping in and early nights.
Just like wandering around, doing nothing. Obviously, MegaCon is going to be a huge deal. Those of you that can make it to the panel, please do. Because you know how Eric keeps saying he's got announcements? That seems like a great place to announce things. I'm not even saying that he might announce something there, but I think it's going to be one of those really cool opportunities where, you know how the Rippaverse keeps talking about, we want you guys to have fun. We really want you to have fun. And Eric and the team has been working on fun for a few weeks now, and even before that. And I think this fun is going to be awesome, and we want to share that fun with everybody. And the new Yaira book looks sick, and the book and that's it. That's it. I'm not going to say. I don't even.
I'm not working on anything else.
I don't write anything else for the Rippaverse. I don't read anything else for the Rippaverse.
We are openly writers for Yaira and probably nothing else ever again. And we are editors. I've read Gooding so many times, and I will say the difference between Jen and Sylv is I'm in love with Cato Gooding.
Yeah,
he's everything anyone would ever want in a man, and Sylv likes the villain.
Yeah,
for the exact same reasons.
He's so good.
It's a little bit Undertaker, Shawn Michaels feuding right now because I'm like, but so and so did this, and so is a piece of shit, and she's like, yeah, but he's great.
I don't really, I don't know. I mean, like, get to know him. Maybe he's not like, just homicidal. Maybe he's like a good guy too, deep down. Like, I don't know.
It's the greatest
fix
thing
him.
in my life to be able to read these scripts and then see them, like the art come in. Have we announced the artist for Gooding? Well, anyways, that art is amazing.
Oh, it's killer.
It's just
killer.
so.
It's an absolute professional.
yeah.
The Gooding artist. So yeah, that's so good.
Oh God, it's such a joy. And the rest of the time we've been working on fun.
Yeah.
So if you're coming to MegaCon, please do. And the panel is on Saturday, but Friday is our cosplay. If you're a One Piece fan, we're gonna be cosplaying Nami and Nico Robin.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be hugging everybody. Oh, if you don't want to hug, just give me a Wakanda
Yeah,
sign.
just do one of those and we'll be like,
Please.
we're not gonna hug you.
And be on your guard, because I will just grab you and hug you. If
Yeah.
you're in the radius, there should be a warning, a sign that you might get hugged if you stand too close. Actually, that would be a great shirt. You might get hugged if you stand too close.
I guess then that's legally binding. I'll check with the lawyers.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And other than that,
Figure it
we're
out.
doing almost nothing at all.
Yeah. And then we're reading everything because we're putting everybody in the lore Bible, because then everybody knows everything about everyone.
Yeah, I actually do know ISOM's social insurance number, so
Yeah.
don't worry. It exists.
It's a
Yeah,
thing.
Eric's not a hack. He's got it all in there.
Yeah,
Name of the
I have
truck and what
his
kind of gas it
I
takes.
have his inseam. I have his horoscope birth chart. It's cool.
It's all there in our
It's
little
all
box.
there, just not for you people.
Yeah.
Not yet, not yet. He's gonna trickle it in. You're gonna be like, I feel like he's a Taurus.
Yeah, you're gonna get one digit at a time.
Yes, exactly. Well, again, like, man, just so much that we're working on. There will be announcements. There will be future things that you guys are going to be kind of let in on. And look, man, this is going to be a massive year for the Rippaverse. So don't worry about that. Let me go through these. Are the writing styles tight or Marvel style? Says Philip Burnett.
Philip, we love you. You're amazing.
Shout out Philip, great artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they're full script.
Yeah.
Full script.
Yeah. Raceland Twitter 20 says Yaira Pigeon verse 2. Everybody in that damn pigeon, man. They
The
love
pigeon
that
is giving the steroid hamsters a run for their money.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
That's very true. That is very, very true. Raceland, I appreciate that, becoming a new member as well. Thank you so much. We got Slightly Personal with it too. Just downloaded the MLH Comics. Can't wait. Oh, Medal of Honor. Gotcha.
Medal of Honor, yeah. Thank you.
Can't wait to read. Shout out. And I believe that is going to be the last one there. So, all right, guys, we appreciate you joining us for the first official spoiler talk stream. We do have a part 2 that will happen on Ripping the Silverback tomorrow with Az. We're going to be talking about some more stuff as well, getting that fan perspective with Az being there, which is going to be incredibly fun. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. All the guys that are here is a great turnout for our first official stream.
Hell yeah.
On the Rippaverse channel. So I thank you all so much. I want to thank Michael, who was here with us. Thanks to Chuck that was here for with us the entire time as we chat with you guys. Again, appreciate the support for Alphacore and everything really Rippaverse related. Remember, you can go to rippaverse.com and still get in on Alphacore if you have not already. We will never not sell a book that we have put out. It will always be available in some cover on rippaverse.com. So thank you guys so much. We're gonna get out of here. Again, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You'll see some of us there as well on Ripping the Silverback at 1:30. But we have to get out of here. Thank you guys so much. The stream will stay up. Also, green haired and the liberal, I see you. Just gifted 5 subs. So thank you so much for that on our way out. So shout out to her. First Ingrid Valdez cosplayer, one of the first Yaira cosplayers as well. She is awesome. So thank you guys. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time. Peace out. And